Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you Sunday, September the 11th, the year 2022. Let's talk trading. Weekly, open, and gap. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. So let's just take a look here and look at the gaps. Notice that the pound dollar gapped up 47 pips. So if anybody shorted the open back at 37, you've got some pips in your pocket right now. And that gap is yet to fill. And you can see here we have some other gaps that have not filled. A quick peek at the monthly shows we are 207 pips off of that monthly low right now. And we're only 10 pips below the monthly open. And for a short time period today, we were above the monthly open. Now, taking a quick look at the day, we are putting in the opening range for the week. You can see we've entered the opening range for the month. In fact, we're 10 pips below that monthly open, which happens to also be, looks like the monthly high. Looking at the year, we're 1,912 pips below the open. Once again, 210 off of that yearly low. You can see we're getting into that, looks like the wick zone possibly of the previous month. Let's see, let me go back. We are in, well, we don't have monthly, we only have the weekly here. But it looks like we might be into that. Let's see, the close was 1621. So we're close, but no cigar. As you can see here, we're sitting, the range is in the range of the upper wick, the high minus the close from Friday's session. We're still below that inside bar. Who knows, maybe today we'll put in a new inside bar. And for the rest of the pairs, looks like we've got a few inside bar trades to be had. Only a couple on the monthly and maybe a handful on the weekly. Only 38 pips of range so far today. We do have 5 pairs over 100 pips, and we are just over 7 hours into the trading day. So we're still pretty much in the Asian session here. Once again, you can see that huge gap to the upside. Well, sometimes when you get these huge gaps, they're breakaway gaps and they don't fill, they just keep going, but that didn't happen today. Range is too low for the rats at the moment. Bambino indicator says to go to the north, go long. We haven't come near the pivot yet. And neither have we been near R1 because once again, we've only had a 38 pip range. So the range is pretty small. So we've missed the pivot. Anybody targeting the pivot will be targeting short. On the other hand, the weekly pivots, you'd be this weekly you'd be targeting short, but you also have some long targets up ahead. As I mentioned earlier, we are in that upper wick zone of Friday's daily candle. I'm thinking it's going to come out the bottom. Not enough range to even move the needle. And we haven't broken out of the weekly high, and we haven't broken out of the weekly low yet. Looking at the Wall Mall trade, You can see here it would have already paid off maybe 4 pips or more. If you had taken that long at 16.10, and that's right where price opened. So you could have taken it either way at 16.10. And each way would have paid off. Looking at the higher low, lower high, you see we just had a trigger here at 16.13. So, and if you're on a fixed spread broker, you can see here, you still have to wait to make profit. But we did have some nice moves off of these levels, trading off of the 3-ball. You know, on the 1 minute, it looks like if you're patient and you just can wait for those 3-balls to appear, you can pick up some nice pips trading it back the other way. But you have to be patient. You really have to be patient. And it can be really tough because you want to do something, but in trading, there's really not much you can do. You click the mouse to enter, you click the mouse to exit. That's everything else is brain work, paperwork, homework, charting. But as far as the actual doing, it's just making a decision. And as you can see, prices just dropped. So had you taken that trade, you'd be up about 4 pips. Nothing much has changed since we haven't put in a new high or low. So we're still have a year-to-date accumulated range of 2,344 pips. Now the question is, do you think we're going to push out of that range, or are we going to wind up inside it for the rest of the year? That's the big question. Are we going to push out of a low? Because to push out at a high, it would that would take a lot, as we saw in that yearly chart. And as far as the trade reminder here, we are the distance to the indicator to the EMA 5 is so far 400 pips. We did have an outside bar last month. Now we're inside that lower wick zone. And price doesn't like staying in the wick zones, even on the monthlies. So it could be very interesting to see what happens this month. But remember, this week, the weekly pivots to the south. We need to take that pivot out. But then again, it might not get taken out for a long time. But yeah, looking at the back to the simple wall lines, it's really kind of funny to me how people can get caught up on things that don't really matter. And when you're trading, there's one thing that matters is price. And the next thing that matters, at least to me, is whether or not you get your order completely filled. Back in trading, when I was trading equities, a lot of times I get partial fills, and they would just wreak havoc on your trade. It's like you put your trade in there, and you want 1,000 shares, and they only give you 100. It's like, what's that noise? I even caught them cheating one time. I had two accounts with the same broker. We just got a low touch alert here. And I put in a trade on each account for 1,000 shares, and I got partially filled 100 on both accounts. Now, I was using limit orders, and limit orders are supposed to get filled in the order they come in, but that didn't happen. So by doing a partial fill, that broker was making commission on each one of those, making the full commission, not a partial commission. So I basically caught him stealing, but the SEC didn't choose to do anything about it. Now, I talked about, just clicking the mouse, entering and exiting. That's really what you do, and everything else is pretty much mental gyrations, calculations, formulations, your strategy, your tactics. But the actual doing is a click of the mouse, right? So, or a touch of the screen, I guess, in some cases. But, look in the short, you can see here we tested this level once, twice, getting ready for a third time. So maybe this hour, maybe next hour it breaks. It's probably going to break hard. Something that I'll be waiting for. So you just kind of sit back and you just wait for that trade. But it really can be challenging, I think is a good word. Because if you could just sit still and just sit and wait, kind of like the one of those big cats in the jungle, waiting, because they know if they miss that kill, all the energy they expend, they're going to go hungry. They might even die. So they make sure when they take off, they got a pretty good idea they're going to come back, with some meat. And that's something you just might have to do as a trader. Just come back, wait for meat. So, for example, this is a big bar. This is a big bar. And what I call big bars, I call them return bars because price has a way to just seems like it keeps returning to the open. So you get this big bar up, and then it took it 4 hours right here, almost 4 hours to come back. But it did. You got this big bar. It took it, what, about 8 hours plus over the weekend. But it came back and then some. So I look at these big bars, and I have a pretty good idea that price is going to do a reversal. Problem is its timing. And one of the things I realized was you have to let this big bar close, number one, before you even think about reversals. And number two, I also noticed that this bar usually the next bar needs to make a new low or a new high if it's going the other way. And you let that happen, and then maybe you just wait for it to cross back into that wick zone. And usually that'll keep me out of trouble. But I tell you, waiting for an hour sometimes or more, it's just like for that setup to happen, because it's easy to trade something like this off the 1 minute chart where you're getting signals, back and forth, back and forth. There's a lot of price action. But if you ever want to try and get one of those bigger trades, it just takes patience. So, fellow traders, I hope you had a fun and safe weekend. It is 9/11 here in the US of A, and it's a day of remembrance. So, I hope you didn't lose anybody on that day. And so, when you come back to trading, always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.